Hello, it's Daryl here with a preamble. We have a rare show for you today. We start off talking about what the price should be for a young American leaving Major League Soccer going to Europe. How much would you pay in a transfer fee? How much should a European team play? We also talk about Sam Allardyce and Alan Pardew. Less so Alan Pardew. We talk a lot about Sam Allardyce because Taylor and I have differing opinions. But the meat of the show is casual soccer games, like sort of not 11-a-side games, but weird games that you make up and play amongst your friends. We list our top 10 and we also list some that we got from listeners on Twitter. Lots of fun ideas in there. Today's show, in all its glory, is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the ticket buying app that you should have heard about on Total Soccer Show by now. With just 2 taps of your phone, you can buy or sell a ticket to a soccer match, to a concert, to any type of entertainment-related event. To get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase, here's what you do. You download the SeatGeek app. It is free to download the SeatGeek app. You go to the settings tab. You enter promo code TSS. That's TSS, and you'll get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase, even if your first purchase costs less than $20. Do the math. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove. Sitting across the table from me is my co-host. He's worth more than $5 million. I am rejecting all bids that come in for him. His name is Taylor Rockwell. He's not going to Europe. Hello.
Hello. I don't know if I love that business decision, but I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it if it means I get to stay here and don't have to move all my stuff.
The show would have kept 3/4 of the fee.
Oh, well, that's no good then.
You can visit Europe. You can visit Europe on your vacation.
How
about
works.
that?
Yes.
All right. So the news we are very subtly, ever so subtly, hinting at is it came from journalist Ian Thomas, who writes for the Sports Business Journal. And Sports Business Journal were having their sort of, I think it's called Deal Makers, like conference. And there were quotes from Don Garber, MLS commissioner. And one of the things that came out was that MLS had rejected bids of $5 million for a New York Red Bulls player and $15 million for an Atlanta United player. Yeah. And the word spread around Twitter that the $5 million was for Tyler Adams.
It did. And I think the implication was also that the $15 million was for Amaron.
That makes sense, yeah. But subsequent searching of Twitter has found that it's probably not Tyler Adams after all,
Correct. I think it was Jeff Carlisle who did some digging and it turned up that Red Bull sources say they had never received an offer for Tyler Adams. Matt Reed, who I think contributes to NBC Sports, followed up saying that his understanding was that it was actually Kamar Lawrence who the Red Bulls had turned down an offer for, specifically because they weren't sure he would be able to get a work permit to be able to play in, I'm assuming,
presumably
England,
because it's the toughest place to get a work permit. Okay, but it did start an accidental conversation among US soccer fans and media and us about what is the price for Tyler Adams, because the feeling seemed to be that the feeling was MLS should let him go for $5 million, but that's mostly because we just want him to go to Europe, right?
I think so. I think that's probably where people were coming from. I personally, when I saw that news, thought that number was a little bit low.
Yes, me too. Me too. So what would be Tyler Adams' number?
It's tough to say because you have to separate some things here, because what I'm blending in my head is the number plus where would it be plus what would that mean for his career. Looking specifically at the number, I mean, you look at some of the other players who've gone. I think the one that everybody points to is Josie Altidore for $10 million, I believe it was.
$10 million.
Mo Edu,
little finger in your mouth.
I think it was slightly more than that. Mo Edu to Rangers was like $4 to $5 million, I think, in there. So then like DeAndre Yedlin, the same. I think the offers for Nagby were like around $3 million.
Yeah.
So when you couple that all that together, the answer is I don't know. Because really, I mean, I could see an argument for saying that he's worth as much as Josie Altidore was when he was sold as an 18-year-old.
But that wasn't a good deal for Villarreal in the end, right? They paid $10 million for Josie Altidore, and he didn't really play many minutes for them. I think he only played some cup games, a couple of Liga games, and then they moved him on after a couple of loans, right? So I don't think Villarreal look at that $10 million as money well spent.
No.
So this got me just thinking about the value of Major League Soccer players. there is proven value in that DeAndre Yedlin was, really affordable, and now he's playing in the Premier League. Like, not many Premier League players have that sort of price tag on them, right? I know he didn't go direct to Newcastle, but still.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, though, right? That it's like same thing with Matt Miazga. Like, I think he moved for around $5 million as well, but he is not playing for Chelsea. He's playing for another club, which is still playing, but it's still not exactly what Chelsea probably envisioned, or maybe it is, and they're just going to sell him on for a little bit more money later on.
But it underlines to me that we don't know what the value of a Major League Soccer, specifically an American coming through MLS, is. It's really hard to put a figure on it that, one, the club would be comfortable with, two, the league would be comfortable with because they take a chunk of the fee, and I assume have to approve the sale, and three, the buying club would be comfortable paying. I don't know where it is. It's really complicated.
Yes, and then it's compounded in my mind by the fact that you have a salary cap that I would say is very low. And so if you want $15 million for a player like Tyler Adams, you're probably not going to get it because the buying club is going to look at that and think, well, he's not even worth that for you. Why would I pay that for him?
They could also say, you're not paying him that much. You're not paying him a salary that suggests he's a $15 million player.
Exactly. Right? So it still remains difficult to evaluate on that front. I would say probably closer to like $8 million, I think, is probably a fair valuation.
You actually did sound like Dr. Evil when you said that. You had the same uncertainty in your voice.
Yeah, it is uncertain because it still is like, where would he go and what would that mean for him? Is he going to Chelsea where he's probably not going to get any playing time and maybe we'll get loaned out hopefully?
He's already scored against them.
Well, there's that then. Yeah, why not? Back. But you know what I mean? That like that also is part of it. That if it's like a Dutch club who are really excited to have him playing central midfield and they have plans for him, then $5-8 million, whatever, get him on there.
So believe it or not, I actually answered this very question on the Top Draw Soccer Show, which you just published this morning with Travis Clark, because a listener had asked it. And my suggestion was that Tyler Adams' path should go on the Red Bull Road. He should travel the Red Bull Road to Austria, to Salzburg, then to Leipzig in the Bundesliga.
I thought you meant stay with the Red Bulls in New York.
Well, I do think he should stay there for a year. My other argument is that he's played right wing back for a season. Give him a year in central midfield. That will develop him. It will increase his price tag as well, increase his value.
I agree, and I think that it can only increase his value, and it guarantees playing time for him. Not necessarily guarantees, but it probably means more playing time in the center midfield.
Yep.
So I think that's why I'd rather see him stay in New York. This is one of those weird situations in which I don't want the player to go abroad now.
Yeah, it's weird. I'd be excited if he moved over to Europe, because obviously we're big fans of Tyler Adams, right? But I'm fine with him staying in MLS. The only reason I kind of joined in a bit of the uproar today when it seemed that either Major League Soccer owner at Red Bulls had rejected a $5 million transfer fee for Adams is that it suggests that MLS isn't doing what we want them to do and help young players get to Europe. This would be Major League Soccer, the league or a club, preventing a move to Europe. It's not, so it's okay, but it reminds me that I'm kind of on edge about this stuff.
It reminds me that it's worth waiting until the story has been like fully reported before jumping to conclusions. Because like when we first saw this, I think we were both sort of like, oh man, that's a shame. Tyler Adams deserves to like go what he wants and experience different things.
Yeah. There was a free Tyler hashtag.
Exactly. And then you think about it for a second and it's like, I also have no idea when this offer came through. So if it was like at the end of like the European transfer window, of course they're not going to want to sell him as you're getting ready for like to gear up for the run to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense then why you might reject that. So there's lots of kind of outlying factors that have to be incorporated.
I think it also got me thinking about what MLS should do if a bid like this came in for Tyler Adams is sell. Because I think if MLS does it, I don't think MLS wants to do this, but what I want them to do is to become a selling league. And what they should do is start establishing themselves as a place of value. So almost sell your players under what you want for them and just establish yourself as a place where you can get really good deals and not get $10 million strikers who don't do that well.
Yes,
right?
And
with all respect to Josie Altidore, but it didn't go well at Villarreal for $10 million.
I dislike the current credit system as much as maybe Bill Burr does. He rants about that a lot.
The credit system.
But I would say you have to establish credit a little bit.
See.
And I think to your point, I wouldn't say you like need to like sell them below value to establish as a selling league, but I think you have to establish credibility. And part of that is that we haven't had a lot of players, specifically American players, go from Major League Soccer to Europe and have lots of success.
No.
It tends to be they get loaned out or maybe eventually they catch on, but it takes a while. And I do think that you have to prove that our players can go there, participate, be just fine, get into your squad, challenge for minutes, and then maybe clubs start to look more and more at this league as, hey, this is a place where we can get young, really exciting players. More young, exciting players will want to be there, and it all kind of works out in the end.
Well, the value right now is in getting players before they sign for Major League Soccer. right? You find kids in development academies and you say, hey, Christian Pulisic, hey, Weston McKennie, why don't you come over here to our Bundesliga U19 team? Yeah, that's real value.
Yep.
Because the price is zero.
Yeah, and I'm sure Major League Soccer would like to avoid that too.
Cost the price of a plane ticket.
Yeah, but that kind of, to your point, is true. That like for Major League Soccer, it benefits them to not be a stick in the mud, because otherwise that just incentivizes European clubs to think, well, let's find ways around Major League Soccer. You get cut out of the deals.
That's true. Okay. Also, I just realised there's probably a whole Jamaican podcast having a whole similar conversation about Kamar Lawrence right now. Because they will be wanting Kamar Lawrence to get to Europe.
Probably.
Yeah?
Because I think at that point you're talking, I think we did a little bit of Googling beforehand. Kamar Lawrence is, 25?
25, yeah. I mean, he's at the age where it's kind of get to Europe now or time's suddenly running out.
Yep.
Right? Your European clock is ticking.
Yes, 7 years is quite the difference.
Speaking of youth and England, let's talk Sam Allardyce
Sorry about the opposite?
and Alan Pardew.
Yeah.
So 2 managerial appointments in England. Pardew is officially the West Bromwich Albion manager until 2020, I saw. Contract is signed. Sam Allardyce appears to be about to be named Everton manager.
Yep, and that means Tony Pulis will end up, where do we think?
I have
Swansea?
No idea. Yeah, I mean,
It's tough. I mean, that is kind of the managerial merry-go-round with that kind of group of managers.
And it feels too obvious to say, but it is suddenly the same old faces doing the rounds in the Premier League. No young English faces, managerial faces coming through.
No, you've got, Sean Dyche and Eddie Howe? That's about it?
Top of my head, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it in the Premier League,
Yep.
he says without much confidence. I genuinely forget who the Brighton manager is, so that doesn't help. But I think overall,
Chris Hughton.
Yeah, thank you. There we go. So you've got I wish listeners could see the satisfied smile that Daryl has.
It was a wink. But
even looking at the championship, for example, you've got Gary Rowett, 43 at Derby County, and Lee Johnson, 36 at Bristol City. Lee Johnson is like the youngest option there, but still there's not many young, exciting faces in the championship. Top of the table is Wolverhampton, Nuno Espirito Santo.
Yep, 43.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then after that is Neil Warnock. It's at like 70.
More than 43.
Yeah. So it is kind of a dearth of young faces.
So is this something you care about? Like, I care about having some young... I'd love to have like a Julian Nagelsmann or a Domenico Tedesco type English figure, like, a 30-something-year-old or late 20s-something in the Premier League, sort of knocking things over and everyone being like, wow, this guy has all these new ideas and we're all really impressed. And he makes subs in the 33rd minute and turns games around. But there's no real English version of that. Like Eddie Howe and Sean Dyche, as exciting as they are not quite that sort of celebrated.
I don't particularly care if it's an English manager. I do wish that there were some younger faces in there, because I think you look at like what's being done at Watford, for example. I think you can bring in young, somewhat like unproven, at least in terms of like the English game managers, and things can work out well. And I don't think that English clubs are as inclined to pursue that option. I think they'd rather make sure they don't get relegated. That seems to be the end-all be-all of existence.
That's why Sam Allardyce was kind of the obvious choice, and Alan Pardew was kind of the obvious choice, and Tony Pulis is going to be the obvious choice for someone. It's because the financial peril of getting relegated is so great that you really need to stay in the Premier League, so therefore you really need to hold on to your manager. And sorry, I've said that out loud. The financial peril really isn't that great because you get the parachute payments, it's all good, but everybody wants to be part of the big show.
I read a thing right before we started recording by an Everton, either a writer or fan, but basically they were saying that they have so much money invested into the infrastructure they're trying to build as well as the squad that they've assembled that essentially to get relegated would be financially disastrous, because then all of those parachute payments and everything they're making goes to paying off things that they have already committed to. You're not building your squad again, and that means you're going to struggle to get promoted back up.
So and I think they'd be, speaking of building credit, they'd be the team that missed their credit card payments.
Correct. Several times in a row.
Your APR goes up, pretty sure.
And so I think that's what ends up happening, is that then Everton can't afford to be relegated, so they can't afford to take a chance on a Julian Nagelsmann or a Domenico Tedesco. So instead they go with Sam Allardyce, knowing that he'll at least keep us up. Maybe then next season we can kind of establish some stability, and the season after that we can look for another exciting manager.
I've got a question, though, for Everton fans. What's wrong with Sam Allardyce? He's done the job wherever he has been. Even the England thing ended in disgrace. He had a 100% record. He went to Slovakia and won. No, but what I'm saying is, like, I know his reputation is tarnished, but his actual record as a coach is excellent. And he's
define excellent.
He doesn't get teams relegated.
Is that what we're going for? He doesn't come in last?
Ronald Koeman and David Unsworth are on track to get Everton relegated.
They hadn't yet. Yeah. I just feel like that's a very low bar to be like, because that's his reputation. His reputation is teams don't get relegated when he's in charge.
But I would also say that's with smaller teams. If you give him a bigger team,
Newcastle would like a word with you.
I mean, Newcastle were doing better than they have done since when Sam Allardyce was there. They really started to slide after Sam Allardyce left. He got Bolton in like the top 10 regularly. He got Bolton into the Europa League. I honestly think he could do big things with a bigger team like Everton if he's given the chance to do so.
I don't disagree with that, but I still think it's not like you know what you're getting from Sam Allardyce. You're going to get pragmatic football that gets the results you need to get so you don't get relegated. Yeah. It's not going to be, hey, we're going to try this like 2-7-1 formation or whatever the new thing might be.
I think maybe I'm more of a Sam Allardyce fan than
you absolutely
people.
are.
Yeah. All right, so I am now going to be sort of softly supporting Everton in the hopes of seeing some good stuff from Sam Allardyce. If he gets the best out of those young English kids, for example, I'd be really excited to see that. Suddenly Tom Davies enters the sort of the high point of his career under Sam Allardyce. You'll be hearing from me about it.
And it's weird though because I kind of disagree and agree with you about Sam Allardyce at Everton though, because it does feel like they're a club who should be aspiring to more. They should be really pushing themselves to get a manager who can come in and have an impact and really change things up.
And I think that is Big Sam.
And I don't know if it is, but I also think that then you look at like West Brom, for example, who are kind of in that perpetual just don't get relegated and that's really our only goal.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, if you're in the Premier League for as long as they've been, they were that yo-yo club, and I think now they're kind of perpetually 14th, I'd say, in there.
Yeah.
That is that good enough, or do you then go out and try to get your own manager who might challenge? Maybe you end up in the relegation zone, and that's where you get Alan Pardew in. But it feels like this would have been the time to take a shot and see what you can do. But that also requires further expenditures in the transfer market, and maybe they weren't ready to do that quite yet.
I feel like Sam Allardyce is that good middle ground as well.
For
you know
Everton?
What I'm saying? Between ambition and safety. You know what I'm saying? Like you can maybe look to go up the table, but you're almost guaranteed not to get relegated. So it's not like some huge gamble where you're bringing in someone who could go either way. Kind of like Ronald Koeman.
I kind of forgot that when it comes to Sam Allardyce, this is like one of your zones of I love him and I will defend him. Like this is the hill you're going to die on, basically. So
yes.
There's no swaying you out of
Sam
this.
Allardyce Hill is where I'm.
But to your, I think, earlier question, it is worth wondering, I wonder how Everton fans do feel about this appointment. Are they sort of like, all right, well, at least we won't go down?
They'll feel a lot better when they start winning.
I think so.
He said confidently.
I think I feel bad for Everton fans because of late they've had this kind of consistent narrative of the young manager comes in and is really exciting and then flames out spectacularly. And then the new manager comes in and is exciting. So maybe they just want that, all right, Big Sam's going to be there.
Tell you.
He's going to drink pint glasses of wine and make sure we stay up.
That's how you make great tactical decisions after a pint glass of wine.
I mean, I think a lot of managers might agree with you on that one.
All right, in the second half of today's show, we're going to step very, very far away from professional soccer, away from even 11-a-side soccer or any form of organised soccer. And we're going to talk about these sort of, we don't really have a good title for it, but it's non-soccer soccer, maybe playground soccer, soccer you play in the street. Do you have any ideas for what the sort of thing that we're talking about?
Backyard football? I don't know.
Backyard football, yeah, but casual games that you can play with your friends that are not regular soccer. Before we get to our top 10 non-soccer, relax ball soccer games, today's show is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek have made buying and selling tickets easier than ever. You download the app, the SeatGeek app, onto your phone, and you can buy or sell a ticket with, I believe, 2 taps on your phone, provided you tap in the right places.
If you are in Toronto or Seattle, I imagine you could probably scramble last minute to get some tickets on SeatGeek for the conference finals that are happening tonight and tomorrow evening, respectively. Maybe not respectively, I forget. And then if you want to look at it for maybe music, you could do that as well, which is what I've done, Daryl Grove.
Okay, have you picked out someone to go see?
I have.
Who you got?
It's one I've talked about, I think at this time last year, in fact. It's Go-Go Bordello, the gypsy punk band they play every year.
Have you ever been to American Wedding?
Yep, that's it. That is it. They play every year in D.C. on New Year's Eve. That is a show that I would love to go to.
Oh, like a standing date type thing?
I thought so, but it's always been 9:30 Club. This year it's at a different venue, so maybe things have changed. It's Go-Go Bordello and Thievery Corporation playing together.
Thievery Corporation? I've never heard of them.
Get it together.
No. What are they like? Are they like Go-Go Bordello?
No, they're pretty out there. I don't think anyone is like Go-Go Bordello. I'd say the Pogues maybe, but that's Irish folk punk.
What is the story with Go-Go Bordello? Where are they from?
He is a Russian gypsy, I believe. I think he's a Romani gypsy born in Russia, the lead singer. But then I think he lives in Brazil, and his whole idea is experience all global cultures. So I think that he has an Italian fiddle player and a Brazilian drummer, and he has people from all over the world playing different styles of music.
So he's a citizen of the world who does not approve of American weddings.
Yes, that is accurate.
If you want to go and see any soccer or Gogo Bordello or Thievery Corporation, you can get $20 off. You can get your $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase when you download the SeatGeek app, click the settings tab, enter the promo code TSS, 3 letters, TSS, for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. I promise it works. Many people have told us I used it. I couldn't believe they were going to send me $20. It 100% works.
And if they don't, Daryl Grove will send it to you.
That is not guaranteed. SeatGeek are fully responsible for the rebate. Okay, so the beep says it's time to go on to part 2 of the Total Soccer Show. So the beep test, the beep test podcast. So we've sort of promised our 10...
If it's the beep test, you have to talk increasingly fast as we go.
You get out of breath. We've promised sort of 10, casual soccer games that you can play with friends. You just need a soccer ball and maybe some other things, but not necessarily a full field. What did you do for research for this, Taylor?
I thought about my childhood.
I did the exact same thing. I even texted my old friend Hugh, who basically is someone that I played a lot of these games with from the ages of 16 to 30-something.
So I've met Hugh, and I genuinely can't imagine either one of you. Like, in my mind, you guys just both, came into this world, as miniature versions of your current selves. So,
I mean, that is what happens, right?
But no, but you, exactly as you look right now with, a scruffy beard, but just, a shorter version. Yeah. So I'm just imagining a mini you and a mini Hugh playing these games somewhere in the Birmingham
giant
area.
size 5 ball.
Yeah, exactly.
This is also partly inspired by yesterday's question that we got from Anthony Van Heuvel, right? When he was asking about how to get some soccer stuff going in rural Kansas. And you said you don't need a full game. You can just play some fun games.
Yes.
So that's why we sort of started thinking about this.
Agreed. And I did want to add at that point that, as I said, a lot of this was informed by games that I played growing up with friends or in high school with friends. So it does feel weird that we're not going to mention Fuchi in this segment.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because, number one, that's not a game I played growing up. But number two, it
hadn't been invented yet.
It had not. And we've talked about it before. We talked about it on yesterday's show, that it is a great game that you can play and use to build your skill.
Fuchi very much in the spirit of what we're talking about.
Yep.
All right, but what's your top? Let's go top 10, 5 each. I'll ask you to start us off, Taylor, with a special bonus question for each one.
Sure.
What's the first game?
I'm going to say it's one we talked about yesterday. It's One Touch. One Touch is,
okay.
I think, one of my favorite, relaxing games you can play with the soccer ball.
Okay, please explain it briefly to listeners.
Okay.
Bearing in mind that they may have heard it on yesterday's show.
Yes.
So real brief.
But I'll try to be briefer than I was yesterday. But it sounds really complicated and really difficult. It's not. It's basically you can play with 4 or 5 people or 20 people. We've done that too. But it's essentially you have one person in goal. You have everyone inside the penalty box. Everybody has one touch. You can only score with the ball out of the air. So I would have to lift it up to Daryl. Daryl would have to one-time volley it or head it or whatever you have. If you touch it twice, you have to go in goal. If you miss the goal, you have to go in goal. And then basically you keep track of how many goals get scored on you. If it's a certain amount, you get butts up.
So we do this in England as well. So I guess I'll make this my number 5 pick. We call it headers and volleys for the same reason. You can only score a header and volley, only one touch, because the phrase that all kids know in England, you can't set yourself up.
Yeah.
Because the one kid will always get the ball and he'll be thinking no one's really paying attention. He'll flick it up to himself and then volley, and everyone will say, you can't set yourself up. Get in goal.
Yep.
So that's the rule.
That was the other rule. The other rule is that if the ball bounces before it goes into the goal, then you go in. It has to go cleanly into the goal.
Oh, wow. We didn't play that.
And the reason why that's especially vicious is because what you can do is say, I'm going to set Daryl Grove up. I've got my back to goal. You're going to pass it to me. I'm going to lift it up, and you're going to hit a smash volley. But I can also just dummy it and let it roll into the goal, and then you have to go into the goal.
Ooh.
So you can be that type of person,
So that's the other element of these games, is that kids are mean, but being mean to each other in these games is kind of fun. All right, one element we introduced to this is, if you could play this game with a professional player, who would it be? Who would you play one touch / headers and volleys with?
So when it requires that I've picked one player, but for the purposes of one touch, you need to have 4 people, I'd say, maybe a few more. But it's
I'd
also
say
not
3 minimum you could get away with.
Yeah, okay. But I've gone with more than that because it's also a game that you can play for 3 hours and you don't really exert yourself that much. It's sort of can be soccer and socializing, and so that's what I've tried to go for here.
Players.
I've gone with Eddie Pope, Brian McBride, Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, and John O'Brien.
Why?
Because it's a game where you can sort of socialize, and it's relaxed enough that we don't need super competitive players who are I want to be the best. They'll get bored of this game real fast.
Yeah.
Paul Pogba and Leo Messi are going to get bored of this game. But these guys are all going to sit around and tell you stories about the 2002 World Cup.
So this may be that we play this game a little differently in England, but in England we do a lot of genuinely crossing the ball, right? So it's headers and volleys, but it's essentially you have a player cross it. The problem was growing up, you couldn't always get a good cross off your friends. So I would ask David Beckham to play with me, and I would have David Beckham delivering crosses from the right wing for us to header and volley past the keeper.
See, I'm going to be a stickler here, because if I'm in goal, I'm going to if that ball goes out of bounds, David Beckham's going in goal.
That's fine, but it's not going to, is it? It's going to whip towards you, and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to catch this, and then that ball whips back to to me to head past you. And you've already come off your line to try and get it. I head it over you.
Fine.
Me and David Beckham beating Taylor. All right, so that was my 5 and your 5. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is, we call it World Cup.
World Cup.
It's one that I know that you're not a huge fan of, but it's an easy way to kill off a practice if you want to.
I love World Cup. In England, we call it Wembley.
Really?
Other places call it knockout or cuppies, but essentially it's because it's a knockout round to get to the final, right? It's either singles or doubles is how we play. Wembley singles or Wembley doubles, where everybody's shooting into the same goal. If you score, then you're sort of through to the next round. One team or one individual is always knocked out.
Right.
The player or the team that does not score, right? The reason I don't like it in practice is because there's a lot of sitting out.
Yep.
I only like it for casual kickabout. It's perfect for a casual kickabout because then you can, the players that are out or through. If you score early, you go through, you have to wait for everybody else. You can just sit around and chat. It's fine.
Yeah.
But for practice, it's not so good.
I think that's where you have to add in the little stipulations, it can't go outside of a certain area. Because what tends to happen then, as you said, is say you've got six pairs in there all competing against each other.
For Wembley doubles?
The goalkeeper inevitably is going to punt the ball 30 yards away, and then you got to run and get it, and then you've got it going way out by midfield. If you keep everybody in and around the penalty area, it makes it that much more congested and that much more interesting because now it's a bunch of people fighting for the ball closer together. You get more goals more often.
The best part of World Cup / Wembley is when the keeper kicks it off nicely, not too far, just in the middle of everybody. It becomes kind of it looks like Aussie rules football, where everybody just basically goes up for the ball and tries to claim it.
Right. And then the wrinkle there is that, say, I shoot the ball on goal, but Daryl Grove just gets just a toe to it.
I'm going through.
That counts.
I'm a winner.
If, though, I forgot this wrinkle, if you're playing World Cup, you have to say the name of the team you're representing.
Yeah, I never played this, but it is a variation that a lot of people swear by, is it's called World Cup and you have to say, all right, I'm Poland or I'm whatever.
Or if you're my buddy Trey, who reminded me of this rule, you always play as Djibouti.
Is that a country or a city?
That is a country.
Is it? Okay, so you have to shout the name of your country as you shoot or it doesn't count.
I believe it's the base for the United States is drones. So there you go.
Is that right? Oh, lovely.
yeah. It's a fun one. So if I shot that ball and it just nicked off Daryl's toe, he has to say Djibouti before it goes to the goal.
I'll say it hard and fast.
So you have this one too, then?
Yeah, I've got Wembley. Should we maybe talk about why it's called World Cup and why it's called Wembley?
I mean, I think at least for you growing up, I'm assuming it's because Wembley held such significance and the FA Cup was more of a big deal than it is now.
Because the final, it really could be called FA Cup, but because the final of the FA Cup was always at Wembley, it was called Wembley because you're trying to get through the knockout rounds, not get knocked out, and get to the final and win it. That's why it was called Wembley.
And I think that's also because Wembley is such an iconic venue, whereas in the United States, Matt Free Stadium, maybe for Dos Acero, you don't really have that big stadium that would work that way, so I feel like it ends up being World Cup.
It's more about the FA Cup, so it will be called US Open Cup, and the problem is that US Open Cup has a roving host, right?
That ain't
so you
work.
Can't say whichever team puts in the biggest bid,
exactly.
the blind bid at the start of the season.
RFK Stadium for this year, but not next.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a bad name for a game.
It's very wordy.
Okay, well, I thought we've had the same one every time so far. Oh, I forgot to ask, who would you play with?
I mentioned him earlier. It's Paul Pogba.
You'd have Paul Pogba.
There was a story
as your partner, so you go doubles with him.
There was a story yesterday on Reddit, which I don't know if I love, about Kurt Zuma saying that Paul Pogba gets angry if he loses at Uno.
Yes.
That's how competitive he is. That's who I want my teammate to be. Plus, he's the guy who can kind of do everything, as we've talked about. So I can kind of sit back and be like, you got this one. I'll help out later on.
Here's what I'd do. If it was doubles, I'd want Andres Iniesta as my partner because I want to get some passing combos going with Iniesta. That would be fun, right? Some Barcelona-style 1-2s with Iniesta. I'm sure he'd be very disappointed many times, but
that's where I was
could work
thinking.
out.
Yeah.
If it was singles, which I feel like you don't play as much in World Cup, in England we do a lot of Wembley singles where it really is every man for himself, I'd want to play against Leo Messi. I just want to see what it was like to have a whole field of people trying to tackle Leo Messi. He'd probably get through everybody, but it would be fun to watch. It would be amazing to watch.
All right. Well, since I've gone first twice now, and I think we've had the same ones, why don't you say one this time, Daryl?
Okay, here's one that I don't think you have in the United States because I've never heard anyone mention it. 3 and in. You ever heard of 3 and in?
Nope.
So this is something you do when you maybe only have 3 players or maybe 4 players, but a smaller number of players. You have one person in goal. They're in, right, in goal. And everybody in the outfield plays essentially like World Cup or Wembley, and it's just the first to score 3, right? Once you score 3, then you go in goal. This is the weird part. The goalkeeper doesn't want to be in goal. the person who scores doesn't want to go in goal, but you want to win. And so it's really based on the idea of even though the incentives are all weird, it's kind of on the honor system, and that's why I like it. It really relies on everybody to hold up their end of the bargain and not be the goalkeeper that's kind of like, oh, I just let 3 goals in way too easily because I want to get out. If you're that person, then you get in trouble.
So it doesn't really incentivize being a goalkeeper at all, then?
No,
you don't get like points for saving or anything like that?
No, you don't get any points for saving, and you really want to get out, right? But I kind of like it as almost like a really good like social democracy type thing where everybody's just encouraged to play by the rules.
But you keep going, right? So so then maybe the argument is if you're the goalkeeper, you do such a good job that you tire the other 2 out. So then when you finally do come out, they're exhausted, and you can
if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
So you can't stop thinking of it in a competitive way, right?
No.
It's more about just doing your bit so everybody else can have a good time.
Nope, always competition. Always competition.
The person I chose to play this with is Manuel Neuer because he'd be good in goal and good outfield.
I can't say I would disagree with that. I think he might be too good in goal.
Well, that's fine, then I wouldn't have to go in.
Well, there you go. Since you've gone with one that involves scoring goals and rotating, I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to go with Thunderdome. One that has many, many different names. It's a very basic concept. It's one that was like always my favorite thing, that if we were going to do it in a practice, I would always be very happy. And it's essentially...
So Mad Max, you build a big metal cage.
More on that later. But in this situation, no, you'd have say you have a team of 15 people or 18 people. You'd split into 3 groups of 6 or 3 groups of 5. And it's basically you put the goals about like 30 yards apart. You play 6v6. First team to score stays on. The other team goes off.
Okay.
And then the other one that was off comes on. When you're not playing, you're kind of spread around. So you can use those players as ball boys, or they can be...
Oh, we've done this in practice,
or they
right?
can or you can like pass to them and they can sort of pass back with 1 or 2 touch.
Yeah, so everybody stays involved.
Yeah, but it's basically 2 teams enter, 1 team leaves, and in that situation, it's the team that leaves that lost, which is not what Thunderdome is. But still,
I see.
Yeah,
yeah, Thunderdome's a bit more murdery, right? Yeah.
A little bit. And with that in mind, the players that I would want to have incorporated is basically the class of '92. Like I want sort of more or less. I want Roy Keane, I want Ryan Giggs, I want Paul Scholes, I want Gary Neville.
You're just trying to meet your heroes, aren't you?
A little bit, but also again,
heroes.
we've talked about like the intensity of that team and how hard they trained.
Yeah.
There's no way this team is going to lose. So I feel like this is one where they would be like really challenged, because I genuinely did think about this, that like Roy Keane is not going to play 1 touch. He's going to get bored. He's not going to have it. He's going to be like, this is stupid. I'm leaving. But with Thunderdome, I could see him getting competitive and wanted to stick around.
Okay, so my runner-up is, I wrote football tennis because I got in a very British mindset, but I think over here it is best known as soccer tennis.
Correct.
Or at TSS Tower, soccer in the hallway tennis.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean,
you got mad at me last time.
Today's the day to talk about it.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So this is kind of, it's self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the easiest place to play it would be an actual tennis court.
Yep.
And then you just play with the rules of tennis, but with a soccer ball. In reality, you rarely have access to a tennis court, and it's more fun to do it in a smaller space and just make your own net with whatever you have, be it, I don't know, like a couch or anything else you can put across the middle, divide the court in half, you play the ball over it, 1 bounce, the other player plays it back. Soccer, tennis, it's the best.
Tennis court, basement, hallway, park, and I would say this is the best beach soccer game you can play. One touch is up there, but I have definitely spent like 9 hours at the beach playing soccer tennis before. You just buy a little volleyball net. You just stake it to the ground. You like use your heel to etch out that court. You're good to go.
So then there's no bouncing, right?
There's it's 1 bounce, because if you play close to the water,
right? Doesn't
no,
the ball
because you play close to the water, it's tightly packed enough that ball will bounce.
Oh, Richmond,
and
2 hours from the beach.
Once. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Any tips on soccer tennis? Because I feel like we've all played quite a lot. Maybe not a tip, but I would say that, for example, the thing I love the most in soccer tennis is lobbing someone.
Yep.
If someone comes close to the net and you can lift it over their head, but you can feel confident that you will land it inside the court, that's my favourite thing in the world.
I think much like
soccer tennis.
I agree. I think much like soccer, the more overly elaborate you go, the more likely you are to mess up.
Yeah, right.
Because it really is. It becomes a thing of like, I'm going to like chest it up to myself and then I'm going to head it back. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So just like
I'm going to put wicked spin on this and land it right in the corner. No, you're going to bash it out of bounds.
Yep. Yeah. So I think it's that. It's like, just make sure you get it over
Even
the net.
John McEnroe wouldn't complain about how out this shot is about to be.
He's calm now. He told me. He told us that on Curb Your Enthusiasm before he immediately lost his temper on Larry David.
I also enjoy a drop shot.
Yep.
Yeah, as in tennis, it's the best. If you can force your opponent to the back of the court and then just gently put a drop shot out there. It's kind of a hard skill in soccer, right? Because it involves killing the ball, but also giving it enough momentum to get over the net. It's a gamble you're taking. I'll be honest, my usual strategy is just hit it back and hope it doesn't come back. Same as my Fuchi strategy. Just hit it and hope the other person messes up.
It's also one where you don't necessarily have to like be on the same page linguistically with your teammate, because it is just more like, here, I'm open. Yeah, do it. Like whatever. It's like very simple commands. And I thought about that because I'm not sure my teammate in this game is going to speak English.
Are we playing 2v2 here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. 2v2 is the best way to do it.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Team tennis is my favorite. And it's when you think like game that requires skill that can be played on a beach, I'm going Neymar.
Neymar!
Neymar is my teammate for this one.
Wouldn't he just want to take all the attention, though?
Again, I'm fine with that.
And he would just gift himself the Ballon d'Or at the end.
But I think the usual rules there with soccer tennis is like I think it's a little different than tennis in that I think you get like 3 touches between the two of you. So like I could volley it to you, you could head it over. But I think if you do like juggle it up to yourself 3 times, that's it. You're done.
The way I always played is genuinely like tennis, as in you only get to hit it once. There's no right answer. There's just lots of variations in the rules.
Yep.
But when I always played, we played just like tennis, you hit it back.
And therefore my advice is before you choose to play one of these games, make sure you're on the same page. Because I think we've done this before with Fuchi, where it was like, no, it's like this. No, it's like this. And then we're playing 2 different games. That leads to problems.
For the record, I was right.
You were right according to you. That's definitely true.
No, according to the owners of Fuchi.
Sure.
The people who invented the game.
I did enjoy. I forget who said it, but like somebody was saying that the way they always played was to juggle it up to themselves and then gradually head it over.
Yeah,
and that is literally what I did the first time we played Fuchi, and it annoyed you to no end because you're like, no, we play 1 touch.
My partner, I was thinking more of an opponent, but just someone I enjoy playing with or against, is Olivier Giroud.
Really?
Great reach, right? Because he's a tall guy. But he also really does have a deft touch. So I can imagine a lot of really good drop shots from Olivier Giroud.
He also has a tendency to pull off those like ridiculous, like, oh, that ball's going out of bounds, and suddenly he like has an overhead kick from the touchline that goes in the goal.
He's very limber.
So he's gonna be able to pull off some shots that like I'm gonna be walking away like, oh, that's our point, no problem, and then he hits a bicycle from 40 yards away and puts it immediately into the corner.
And I also really just think his name also sounds like a tennis player.
Yep. You're not wrong.
Actually, Olivier Giroud, the number 4 ranked on the men's circuit.
Yeah. I would believe that.
Was disappointed to go out in the quarterfinal of the French Open.
Well, we've each got one left. We've also got some listener submissions, Twitter submissions, I should say. But before we do that, should we get to our other sponsor on the day?
Yes, today's sponsor is Roughneck Scarves. Roughneck Scarves are the official providers of scarves for US soccer. US soccer scarves are kind of a little safer to buy now that we've seen the next generation. Major League Soccer, USL, and NCAA College Cup is happening right now. Often we put out kind of a Roughneck Scarves question about how you would design a custom scarf, but today I really wanted to focus on the fact that the Roughneck Scarf store at roughneckscarves.com has all kinds of great stuff in it. Like I said, US soccer scarves for men and women, Major League Soccer scarves, lots of custom country scarves if you want to support your team at the World Cup, and
as you said before we get to that one, as you said, also colleges. So we're in the middle of both the men's and women's tournaments. If you want to get a scarf to share your support, it's cold outside. That's one way to do it. You can go to Roughneck, and of course, they are the makers and providers of the Total Soccer Show scarf.
Hello and welcome is what it says on the Total Soccer Show Roughneck scarf. We'll put a link to the Total Soccer Show scarf in the show notes because it is, genuinely, I think this is a great holiday gift. If you want to get that for someone, obviously you'd be helping us out because we see a cut of the profits. You'd be helping a sponsor out because Roughneck Scarves have been great sponsors for over a year now. Roughneck Scarves have supported us, and you'll enjoy a genuinely good scarf. Really well made, great design. It's got our logo on it.
So what can people do to get that discount, Daryl Grove?
You go to roughneckscarves.com, and then when you go to the checkout, you enter the discount code Total Soccer Show, all one word, Total Soccer Show, for 20% off any scarf you find, but you're best off finding the Total Soccer Show scarf.
There we are. So thank you to Roughneck Scarves for sponsoring today's show and being the providers of the TSS scarf.
Oh, yeah.
Hello and welcome.
Hello
Daryl Grove,
welcome.
Back to you.
Back to me. Okay, so this is my number one, my favourite sort of casual soccer game. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. It's called Slam. You may not have it here. It's also known as Wally or Spot. So
you're just making these up now.
I'm not. It's a simple. So where I grew up in the Midlands, because it also
called biscuits and honey.
it varies around, especially in England. It varies according to local phrases. But we call it Slam. You just have a brick wall or some surface that the ball will bounce against. You have one touch to strike it against the wall. Then the next person does the same, and it's as simple as that. But it's always played in some weird venue, like sort of a playground or in a street where there are all kinds of obstacles. So if you can like strike it at the right angle, you can like put it behind a tree. So someone is really in trouble when they try to do it. You can try and get it to land under a car. You can try and get it to sort of go behind another wall that's at a weird angle next to you. So there's a group of you playing slam where it's just one touch trying to bash it against the wall, but you are almost the goal is to be mean to each other and set the next person up with a really hard shot.
We did used to play this, I think, way back when I was little, because it was this weird thing where you didn't want to get your ball like too close to the other person because they could like knock your ball away, I think it was. So are we talking about two different things then?
Yeah, it's just one ball.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, okay. I see.
So actually this is almost like Fuchi, but instead of the rebounder net, you just have an entire brick wall.
Oh, I
and you
see.
only have one touch to strike it, but you have to hit the wall, right? So if you hit it pretty hard, which it's called slam, so people strike the ball pretty hard at the wall because it's a big target, and then the next person has the choice: do they get as close as they can and try and also hit it hard, which risks kind of doing it like as it's coming at you at pace? It's quite hard to hit, right? We weren't all professional soccer players. Or they only have one touch.
Okay, I'm with you now.
So do you let it bounce farther back and like so it slows down a bit, but then you're farther from the wall and you're at a risk of getting under that car, behind that tree. That dog's coming, you don't want to kick that dog. You know, and there's all kinds of weird obstacles in real life going on around you. So it made it really fun and dynamic and a really interesting game to play.
I see. Okay, sorry. I conflated that with a game that we used to play, which was basically like if you and I each had a ball, your goal was to hit the other person's ball, but it was like golf where you could each take one stroke at a time. So you would kick your ball far away, and then I would have to decide like how close I wanted to put my ball to yours, knowing that you would then get the next shot. So you're kind of constantly getting closer and closer, but then you can also be like, I'm winning, and you can put it far away because I think we would put time limits on it as well.
That sounds fun but weird and complicated.
It is.
Slam was just so simple. It was hit the wall or don't hit the wall. You got one strike to do it.
I think see, this is the one where you're competitive. This one was more about like killing off an hour by walking around the school.
Yeah, I don't like ones where you have to think about it. I like things where you just have to react as quick as you can.
All right, well then.
So let me finalize this though. The reason it's called slam is because if you miss, you get a letter.
Okay.
Right, and once you spell slam, you're out. And the best part is when I found that other places, I think especially in the north of England, call it Wally because it's against the wall, but it spells out Wally, Wally. So when you're a Wally, then you're out.
And then you just have to sit there and wait for everybody else?
Yep.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, you do. That's why you don't want to miss. You don't want to be the Wally. You don't want to slam.
Well, this final one for me then, I like that one.
Weren't you supposed to ask me who I would like to play this with?
I'm assuming it's Paul Gascoigne.
It's Hakan Çalhanoğlu.
Ooh.
Because I would love to see him in a tough spot where like his ball is behind a car and you've got to bend it around and try and hit the wall. He is maybe the greatest free kick taker around. Hakan Çalhanoğlu would be bending it around the car or the tree to hit the wall.
I feel like this is one where you regret that you've already used David Beckham.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, when I was doing my notes last night, I did regret that I'd used David Beckham.
There you go. Well, my final one isn't quite as applicable as all the other ones we've talked about because this is relates to my high school engineering project when we built the Nike cage. And that's why my number one game.
I have heard. This is like urban legend in Richmond. I've heard about this.
I was trying to think if I could find photos of it. I don't think I could, although I think if we went to the house where it was built, if I could find it, it's probably still standing. It survived 2 hurricanes, last I heard. But we basically
It's where people in Richmond go to shelter from a hurricane.
Yes, exactly. It's basically we built a very low-rent version of the Nike cage.
From the commercial?
Yes, from the commercial. And then we did a 2v2 tournament and a 1v1 tournament that same night. We played song over and over and over and over again, too.
Is it a little bit conversation, a little less conversation, a little more action, and injuries inside a cage we just built ourselves?
With chicken wire surrounding it. So, yes.
So there are, 2 goals inside, and then just you enter and you play?
Yep.
Is that it?
I think we had like an AstroTurf floor. We had like little wood panels around so you could bank it off the panels, and then chicken wire all the way around.
Amazing. How old were you?
We were 17, 18.
So you were like old enough to know how to sort of use tools and do this? Or did you have some parental supervision?
We had parental supervision. Yeah, I think one of the guys' dads was like a construction foreman, so he did a lot of the work, which is probably why it's still standing. That really doesn't. And then I think we still ended up getting a bad grade on the overall project because we basically just built it and then like filmed ourselves playing in it. And our engineering professor was like, "No, I wanted like your schematics and like how it actually worked."
You just show him the Nike commercial.
It didn't work so well.
We did that.
Yeah, but as I said, we the initial tournament, the inaugural tournament, was 2v2. Yeah, and if I was going to go 2v2 in the cage, I'm going to go Leo Messi as my teammate for that one.
Oh, I would have gone Edgar Davids. Wasn't he in that video?
He was. I don't think his team won, though.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Thierry Henry's team. I think he ended up doing the header off of Totti's back.
Am I imagining this correctly? Is Eric Cantona sort of on top of the cage?
Of course he is.
Yeah, okay. Like he's the impresario overseeing the whole thing.
Sort of speaking English, I think.
Yeah. Maybe we should put the link.
What do you want?
I know you're editing today's show, so I don't want to promise things we can't deliver, but would you put the link to that video in the show notes? There will be people out there who haven't seen the Cage, the Nike video.
I got to say, it's one of the greatest soccer advertising campaigns of all time.
Yeah,
I will never forget that song.
After all the ads we do.
Yes, that's true. And I can probably remember most of the players if pressed. Because that one was 3v3. And if I were going 3v3, I'd go Messi and Ronaldo.
It was the best thing Elvis was ever involved in.
Thinks about it, sure.
Sure.
We're going to hear about that one.
He was a hero to most. So I also tweeted, don't say the second line. I tweeted this out last night to ask if anyone had any other games to suggest that they played growing up. That was a slow burner, that one. We got some great answers.
Chuck D liked it.
We got some great answers. Are you ready, Taylor?
I am.
Actually, I haven't shared these with you. I got them in front of me. Enabong Ephraim says that him and his friends used to play the crossbar challenge.
Oh, yeah.
The crossbar challenge. That's a classic, right? But Enabong, I'm not sure how old Enabong is, but he said they still have a crowned champion. Like there's someone among their friends who is the current champion of crossbar challenge.
I like that in the way that like the WWF, back when it was the WWF, used to have like the hardcore championship where you could be pinned anywhere. So like if you were asleep, I could like sleep into your apartment and pin you, and then I would be the champion. And I like the idea of the crossbar challenge being the same, that like Daryl Grove is the current champion. He walks outside the office building and I've just set up a goalpost. Like, let's do this. It's game time.
And so just in case anyone can't work this out, crossbar challenge is you all stand there and you try and hit the crossbar, usually from like the top of the box, more or less, right?
Yeah,
it's actually really hard to do, though.
Yeah, it is.
You hit it, you win. No one else is hitting it because it's really hard.
Yeah, I think crossbar challenge is what inevitably One Touch would devolve into. Because eventually everybody wants to shoot, but they don't want the consequences. So it becomes, let's just hit the crossbar instead.
We also got one from the Luna Father, Twitter name, who said that he plays a game called, and definitely a he, plays a game called Nutball.
Oh.
Which is, without going into too much detail, you stand 15 feet away from each other and you aim the ball at a part that would hurt.
I feel like that's Jackass inspired.
Yeah, it's rough, right?
I don't want to play that.
As far as I would go is Butts Up. I've played Butts Up a few times. I know I was kind of expecting that to be in your list.
Oh, I mean, that's usually... So with a lot of the ones, the reason why I kept asking, like, and then you're out, is because for a lot of our games, it was when you lose, when you get 10 goals scored on you, or 5 goals scored on you, or you spell horse or
slam.
Wall or slam or whatever, then
you dismiss my culture.
Then you do Butts Up.
Okay.
So that was like the punishment.
So Butts Up is you essentially stand in the goal, kind of lean over so your butt is showing, and then teammates or friends, former friends, soon to be former friends, try to strike the ball at your butt.
And I think you shoot from the 18, but then if you flinch, then you get to reshoot from the penalty spot. I think is how that one works.
There's also a version where if you miss entirely,
then
you have to join it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Next one. Nick Roda had two. One called Sharks and Minnows. Have you ever heard of this? I had never heard of this.
I literally had 3 sessions of kids today play Sharks and Minnows.
Oh, so is this a real little
You've
kids
never
game?
played Sharks and Minnows?
No.
Poor man.
Okay, well, let me explain it to you to see if I've got it right. Okay, so there are sharks and there are minnows. The minnows have the soccer balls, and the sharks go around and try and tackle you if you're a minnow. Once you get tackled, you lose your ball. Then you have to put your ball aside, and then you become a shark, and you go and chase the minnows for the ball.
Yes.
Right?
The only wrinkle there is that, like, the way I think most people would play it, and maybe this is what you were saying, is that it's from one side to the other. So it's basically like you have a line here and a line here, and you start on one side and you have to run to the other. So basically the sharks have to get you in that one round.
And
so then once you get everybody...
That makes more sense as well, because minnows are trying to traverse the sea.
Exactly. And so you just keep going till there's one left. So say there's like 12 minnows and you're the shark. If you get 2 minnows in the first round, so then the 10 are on the other side, now you've got 3 sharks. And then the next round they come back and it goes on until you've got one left.
So we have a game like that in England that's not soccer related. It's just called Bulldog. Where there are people in the middle who try and grab you and tackle you to the floor as you try and sort of cross the playground. If you get tackled to the floor, then you have to be part of the group.
I can't say this with any level of confidence, but I can say where I first played Sharks and Minnows was that it was a pool game. So it's like you basically have to tag the person on the head above water. So that's where I used to play it. So that's where, and then soccer came in much later.
Okay. Nick Roda also had a soccer version of Foursquare. Which makes sense, right? We've played Foursquare.
Skillful.
We've played some adult Foursquare with the Foursquare ball, right? I don't have time to explain Foursquare, I don't think, 'cause it's a little complicated.
A bit.
But with a soccer ball, it'd be really, really hard, right? Yeah, but I like, the good part about Foursquare is you can be the king and you can impose various rules. Like, so you could be like, everyone use their left foot, and suddenly more than half of people are in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Owen Carson says crab soccer. is a ton of fun, and everyone collapses laughing at some point. If you've never played crab soccer, I'm sure you can picture it. It's normal soccer rules, but you all have to crab walk at all times, which means on your facing backwards on your hands and feet, right? As opposed to sort of bending over. Yeah,
exactly.
It's really hard to get
And
around.
if you want a really hard workout, try crab walking up a hill.
Yes.
It is crazy difficult.
I'm sure crab soccer is a bit of a workout. Uphill crab soccer, the ultimate. Better than PX90. All right, Mark Johnson.
In my day, we played crab soccer uphill both ways.
Mark Johnson and his friend Nick Bradford played house soccer. You can imagine what this is.
Yep.
So, according to this tweet, they lived in a house, I'm imagining like university or post-university, of 3 people. Only 2 of them are into house soccer. You can see the problems here. So Mark says that house soccer would involve sort of any ball that was laying around, and you defended doorways across the living room, across the hall, etc. Any surface in the house is playable. So if it pops up on a table, you just keep playing and keep going. All fun and games until the second time we broke a window and our other roommate, unnamed, walked in.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I know who's paying the deposit when you guys move out.
Yeah. Man, there was something about being a little kid and getting to play soccer indoors that was like the most exciting. So it
felt sort of a taboo, right? You're not supposed to be doing this in here.
Yeah.
Don't play in the house.
But it's amazing. It's so much fun, especially if you have like a carpeted basement, because then it's like, oh, it's so plush. I could just dive and fall on it. It doesn't hurt. Except it kind of hurts, but whatever. It's
That's
fine.
if you live in the Midwest. You have a carpeted basement.
Sure.
Chris Newman, I've got a couple more to go if you'll indulge me. Chris Newman, this is one I'd never heard of, says he has a Spanish friend who taught him a game called Rapido.
Interesting.
So Rapido is kind of like a penalty shootout type situation, right? But if you miss, then you go in goal. But then the goalie will roll it out to the next person because everyone's shooting as fast as they can. So you go very quickly from missing to having to rush into the goal to try and make a save because the next person is already shooting.
Oh, so much cheating! I imagine what
so
happened
much
there.
cheating. Why?
Yeah, because if like I shoot and you save it, if you try to roll that ball out, I'm immediately kicking it away. I'm going to intercept it, knock it away, and then get in goal.
It's possible you would not have been fun to play with because of your intense competitive streak.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's all about finding ways around the rules. Yeah. That's all, Daryl.
All right, I'll remember this next time we play soccer tennis in the hallway. Noah Jefferson, have you ever heard of this one? Horseshoes.
I've played horseshoes before.
Okay, so imagine horseshoes or cornhole, right? Something like that, where it's teams of 2 and you're sort of trying to land it in the hole at the other end. Horseshoes is you're on a team of 2, you're obviously at opposite ends, and there's a cone at each end. You're at the opposite end to your teammate with a rival. Your partner will kick the ball towards the cone. You get one touch to kind of like settle it out of the air and try and land it as close to the cone as possible. So
do you try to hit the cone?
I mean, if possible,
okay.
Yeah. So, but you're sort of like one person's kicking it in the air, then your job is to touch it. But imagine if you try and touch it onto the cone, but you miss the cone, but you do it kind of hard and it bounces away. You could end up like 15 feet away by the time that thing's finished rolling.
Yeah.
So what most people will try and do, I imagine, is as the ball's in the air, you'll try and just with one touch cushion it down and try and land it to roll towards the cone. I really like the sound of that.
I would play that game.
Better than cornhole.
I would play that game.
Yeah. Cornhole, overrated. Come at me.
It's because Daryl's bad at it, if you're wondering.
It is. It's because I'm not Southern and everyone here grew up playing it, so I'd never played it before. Still not good at it.
I didn't grow up playing it. It's just that, Daryl Grove is perfecting his throwing ability. That's all I'm saying.
It's in progress.
Yeah.
It's in progress.
Yeah.
Speaking of throwing ability, how about this one? Steve Toto says, goalie wars. Right?
Oh, goalie wars.
So goalie wars are when you put 2 goals pretty close to each other and the keepers are just trying to throw it or kick it past each other, right? Goalie wars on double beds in hotel rooms.
That's
so
amazing.
you know when you go into a hotel room and there are 2 beds facing each other, you've got to throw it past each other.
Are your beds anything facing each other?
I mean, sorry, you know what
parallel,
I'm saying.
Parallel to each other?
I'm just trying to say, parallel to each other. Goalie wars in a hotel room. Brilliant.
Goalie wars is an amazing...
Make sure the deposit is on someone else's credit card.
Definitely
Maybe
true.
that third roommate, get it on his credit card.
Gosh, yeah. I feel like we did a lot of hotel damage when I was growing up. Goalie wars is the best way to like trick yourself or like the kids you're coaching into doing fitness. Because it is so physically demanding if you try to go back and forth because you're just like ripping it as hard as you can, as fast as you can. You save it, you shoot it right back to try to get the guy off guard or the woman off guard, and suddenly you're in a physical challenge.
2 more for you. Mike Kristen says 2-touch crack. I had never heard of this, but here's how it is. You're in a circle. You have 3 touches juggling, right? And your third touch is you like juggle. Third touch is you put it on to the next person. But with that third touch, you're trying to put the next person in trouble. So you can play it to the next person kind of with some force or with some spin on it or just make it extra hard for them. 2-touch crack. I like the name. Almost as good as slam. final one, you got something to say on this?
No, I do
Look
not.
like
Go ahead.
you have a
Final
comment.
one? Nope.
Final one is from John Ray, who says, the mega game.
Oh,
We know this from Secret Soccer Shop owner. We can't name the store. I'm not sure why we can't, but we just don't name the store. All employees all day at the store play the mega game, which is essentially get nutmegged, you lose, but you've got to be on the lookout at all times.
Yep. The coaches that I coach with also play the Meg game, which I consistently forget until I'm humiliated.
So you don't know you're playing because you forget. You're standing there and talking, doing something else. Maybe you're checking your phone. Suddenly someone puts the ball through your legs and shouts, Megs!
I'm always playing the Meg game, basically. That's how I treat life.
Life is one big Meg game.
Yeah. Got to be on your toes at all times, head on a swivel.
That's why we all sit in the office with closed legs.
Yep.
Well, thank you to everybody.
And I would add, since I say I'm permanently playing the game, I'll add that one of the gentlemen I coach with, Jason, if you're listening, I thought I was good at the Meg game. I got destroyed by him. He gave me like 3 times in like 30 seconds.
From a talent perspective, because I think if it's the Jason that you're mentioning, if it's who I think it is, then they're a much better soccer player than you.
Correct.
Or is it just this sort of awareness and sort of determination to play the Meg game?
Yes.
It's all of the above.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you to everybody who submitted their casual soccer games. We're going to call this casual soccer games, but I enjoyed ours as well. Mine is still just tied too hard to childhood memories to let anything supplant the ones that I enjoyed.
That's fair.
I could go for a game of Rapido, I think.
Rapido, or what was the cornhole version?
The cornhole version was called Horseshoes.
I'd play that.
So, I mean, Horseshoes is basically cornhole, but with horseshoes where you try and get it around a pin, right? So, yeah, it's just whatever the dominant form of that is where you grew up. I guess you just do a soccer
Horseshoes
version of
needs
that.
to up their marketing.
Can't we call it soccer hole? No. For us, it would be cone hole.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Okay.
Because
Sure.
it's like cornhole, but you're trying to land it on a soccer cone.
Yeah.
Cone hole.
Sure.
Yeah? You don't like it?
No.
No.
I don't like cornhole, personally, but yeah.
It's a weird name.
It does.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who submitted their ideas. I hope you enjoyed this. I really hope someone goes out and tries one of these games. If you've got any questions about the ones that we play in England, you want me to explain them in more detail so you can play them, I guess email me, Daryl@TotalSoccerShow.com. I may regret that, but let's do it.
Figgy pudding ball.
Figgy pudding.
Daryl's other favorite game. So thank you to people who submitted their entries there, and thank you to the many people who continue to submit to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 reports today.
All right. Same as
Starting with Dylan Veach, scouting Kai Havertz, 18-year-old German midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen. Kai started and played the entire 90 minutes in each of Leverkusen's past 2 league games. Last week, he helped a 10-man side draw Leipzig 2-2, a good result with Leipzig currently sitting second in the table.
Yeah.
This past weekend, he started the move that led to the only goal in Leverkusen's 1-0 win over Eintracht Frankfurt. He's becoming an attacking focal point for Bayer, who are now 6th in the table.
And may I say, welcome back, Lil Sebastian. Up next, Colin Marshall is scouting Conrad de la Fuente, the 16-year-old American-Spanish forward at Barcelona Juvenil B. Conrad de la Fuente. Colin says, Conrad scored twice for the Juvenil B team in a win over Nastich B on November 19th. His goal was a smart header, and his second was a well-placed shot to the bottom corner after some fancy footwork. On November 25th, he scored a penalty 3-2 win over Cornellà B. For those that are curious, Conrad was born in Miami, but moved to Spain when he was around 10. He's a potential dual national, as his parents are naturalized Spanish citizens.
There we are.
Wasn't called up to any recent youth teams.
Was not. Russell Varner scouting Hugo Arellano, the 19-year-old American defender for the LA Galaxy. Hugo is one of 13 players remaining at the Galaxy after the team announced roster moves that left Arellano as one of only 4 defenders on the roster and the only natural left back since Ashley Cole's contract expires at the end of the year.
Speaking of those roster moves, are basically MLS teams recently announced the players that they were not going to keep for next season, essentially, right? So LA Galaxy had something of a call. I think both the Villarreal brothers were let go. Hugo Arellano stays on. But I really had high hopes for sort of the youngsters that LA Galaxy were bringing through. It seems like they got rid of a few of them.
Yes, they did. But not Hugo Arellano.
Yes.
With that said, Russell is expecting a complete overhaul of the roster in the offseason, so he would be shocked to see Arellano starting on opening day.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true. Okay, Cat Prickett is scouting Tyler Turner, 21-year-old American defender at Los Dos. I emphasised the 21 because I think, didn't it come in with a typo saying he was 31?
I was confused.
But we checked. He's still only 21. He hasn't accidentally aged 10 years. Sorry, Kat, I didn't mean to call you on that. So Tyler Turner posted on Instagram that he and Los Dos are parting ways. No other info at this time. I hadn't read ahead. There's just more bad news for Tyler Turner, right?
It is.
Orlando City B got rid of him. Los Dos got rid of him. He's 21. Where does he go next?
I don't know, and that's where I would say to Kat, it does feel like maybe this is the point where she could either request a new player to scout, or she could stick with it and see where Tyler Turner ends up next. Yeah,
yeah.
It's up to you, Kat.
Maybe Kat was reporting that Tyler aged 10 years because of the bad news.
That's also a possibility. Patrick Keeler scouting Anthony Robinson, 20-year-old American left back on loan at Bolton from Everton. Notice that I said American and not English American. Bolton's unbeaten streak came to an end against Wolverhampton this past weekend. Robinson was whistled for a penalty in the 5-1 loss, but was still the highest-rated player by both Bolton News and SB Nation.
I'm presuming only for one team.
I would say so. He should have had the assist in the dying minutes of Bolton's midweek draw against Reading, but his perfect cross to a teammate in the 6-yard box was blasted straight into the keeper's face.
If you want to know more about Anthony Robinson, tomorrow's show, where I'm going to be talking American fullbacks in depth with a special guest, will be heavily focused.
Schedules permitting.
Schedules permitting, yeah. Jim Tietz
My voice is hoping that those schedules definitely permit. I blame the 3 groups of 3-year-olds that I had to coach today for this.
Jim Tietz is scouting Carlos Alenya, the 19-year-old Spanish midfielder for Barcelona B. Jim says, although Carlos Alenya is widely believed to be the midfield successor for Barcelona, management continues to express interest in strengthening during the January window by acquiring either Felipe Coutinho or Mesut Ozil. However, Andres Iniesta recently stated the team should hold on to their cash and instead promote Alenya from Barca B because, 1, he would already understand the Barca system, 2, Liverpool's asking price for Coutinho is excessive, and 3, Ozil is too inconsistent. Did Iniesta say that?
Supposedly. Not in the number system. I added those.
Okay, but he would also. I imagine he would also add 4 #play your kids Barcelona.
I'm sure he would. He's a big Top Drawer Soccer Show podcast listener. Jonathan Holmgren scouting Alex Iwobi, 21-year-old Nigerian winger at Arsenal. Iwobi is reportedly doubtful to start Wednesday's upcoming match against Huddersfield due to a minor leg problem. That game happened today.
Which one's his minor leg?
Move on, Daryl.
Michael Lazar is scouting Jordan Morris, the 22-year-old American forward for Seattle. Michael says Seattle coach Brian Schmetzer said on Monday that Morris is a tough kid and will be ready to go on Thursday for the second leg versus Houston, but didn't necessarily commit to him being in the matchday squad given limited practice sessions. Regardless, the fact that he's returned to practice and is even possible for this week's game bodes well for his recovery. I would put him on the bench just in case Seattle get in trouble. It'd be nice to have that up your sleeve for the last 15 minutes, right?
And I think it's also, if you are maybe coasting, you put him on for the final couple minutes just to get that applause, to get everybody feeling good heading into the final.
And just to be able to say that he's already made his comeback before, because if Seattle get through, they go to MLS Cup, right? So you don't want his comeback game to be MLS Cup.
That would not be
ideal. Okay.
Alex Warren scouting Eddie Nketiah. Nketiah?
I'm going to go Nketiah.
Nketiah. 18-year-old English forward for Arsenal. Eddie made a brief cameo appearance in Arsenal's 1-0 loss to Cologne in the Europa League last week, and then went the distance for Arsenal's U23s in a 3-0 victory over West Ham. He won a penalty, but had the resulting take saved. He did, however, score Arsenal's 3rd goal with a nice finish inside the box. There's a chance he could get some minutes in Arsenal's final Europa League game, given that they've already qualified for the next round.
Whoa, Wenger's going to really play your kids, right? If they're already through and it's a Europa League game.
Yeah.
That'll be, Youngster Thursday.
Yeah.
For Arsenal. Also, I think you and Phoebe should start a blues band. Willie Reed is scouting Jesus Vallejo.
Can't wait till the next time you're sick.
And I got a 20-year-old
we'll see how lively you are.
Spanish centre-back for Real Madrid. Willie says Vallejo started his first La Liga match in a 3-2 victory over Malaga. Overall, he looked good. Showed off his speed on the counters as well as his excellent ball control. However, there was one issue. He was kind of at fault for Malaga's first goal. He didn't close down his mark inside the penalty area, which led to an easy shot from short range. Madrid still ended up with the win, so hopefully this ends up as nothing more than a learning experience for Jesus Vallejo. Am I pronouncing this correctly? Vallejo?
Vallejo?
Vallejo, okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say this. I have not paused this recording to take any cold medicine. Daryl insists on taking his insulin. Just throwing that out there. So you tell me who's more dedicated to the recording process.
Not mid-recording. I schedule accordingly.
Trent Breckel, scouting Timothy Tillman, 18-year-old German-American winger/midfielder for Bayern Munich 2. Tillman played the first half of the Germany U19 team's 3-0 friendly win over Cyprus. I'm guessing it's a friendly. Mm-hmm. That wasn't reported, but I'll tell you why in a second. It should probably be noted that Germany made 10 changes at halftime, so Tillman's substitution isn't so much of an anomaly. In addition, in his last 3 matches for Bayern Munich 2, Tillman has gotten 3 starts and 3 assists.
He's lost to us as an American, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. Andy Holland is scouting Julian Green, the 22-year-old American forward for Greuther Fürth. In the 79th minute of Sunday's Bundesliga 2 match against St. Pauli, Green scored his first goal for Greuther Fürth. Hurrah! He pulled off a skillful dribble, had a nice 1-2 with David Raum before finishing from close range. Green is featured in 6 matches for the 17th place club in the German second division, totaling 520 minutes, which is already more than he picked up with Stuttgart last season. Okay, Julian Green, now is the time to start building, right? Put a full season behind you. Convince us again that you are a serious soccer player. Still only 22.
I like the idea that he's listening to this right now and it's like, okay, Daryl.
I'm more just like
I wasn't sure before, but I'm in now.
I'm putting the thought out into the world, hoping
it.
He'll pick it up and accept it and do it and score a bunch of goals for Greuther Fürth this season.
I appreciate the optimism.
Well, thank you to Dylan, Colin, Russell, Kat, Patrick, Jim, Jonathan, Michael, Alex, Willie, Trent, and Andy for today's scouting reports.
I always feel the desire to do the thing. You know when someone's counting out loud, that you just start throwing out numbers. I just want to be like Steve, Jim, Beth.
But there are people with all those names in the scouting network.
That is correct.
Yeah. So it would just be confusing.
Yeah.
People would be like, I didn't submit a scouting report. Worth noting, I did, 24 hours ago say that I would get...
Louis the 14th.
I would get scouting... He's not in there. No. Scouting reports out within 24 hours. We have 3 hours left before that 24 hours is up. Mm-hmm. I'll be doing that immediately after we're done recording this show so I can keep my promise to myself and to our listeners, which is a very important thing to do.
Indeed.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow to talk young Americans. Then we'll be back on Friday, Taylor, to very likely talk Major League Soccer playoffs, assuming there's some drama in the Seattle-Houston or Toronto-Columbus games. There'll almost certainly be drama in the Toronto-Columbus games
I would say so.
Game. And then on Friday, we'll also be reviewing the World Cup draw. The World Cup draw is Friday morning. We already previewed it. There is no group of death. In my opinion.
Yeah.
But we'll be back on Friday to talk about what has happened in the World Cup draw. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you then.